Hey everyone, welcome back to the ISCANET podcast, the career hub for ambitious international students and professionals navigating the job market with confidence. Today I have Isi Ivanova here with me, who is a career consultant, practitioner, and a neurodiversity career coach with over a decade of experience in the employability field, who had worked with more than 500 individuals. Thank you so much for coming today, Isi.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It is a good weather right now.
Yeah.
It is starting to warm up,
Yeah.
so I have no complaints.
Thank you. Yes, I am feeling the heat here too myself. And you're going to be the first person on the ISCANET podcast that will have brought us to a location. So.
Yes, we're filming in London today.
Yeah, exactly. We're filming in London today, so which is great. Fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about cracking the hidden job market and how to network your way to success. And this is pretty much a topic that a lot of international student immigrants do not pretty much know about because a lot of them get stuck with job boards alone, thinking probably the job board is going to give them the job that they need. So what do people, get wrong about, job searching when it comes to networking?
Yeah. Well, we want to maybe separate the two things. So job searching, if you're thinking about it in the standard way, is going to be going on the job boards and applying and searching for a job and so on. However, what we want to focus on today is the other, what we call the hidden market. And that's essentially when you start connecting with people who are already in places and positions that you may want to be one day, and actually start networking with them and start connecting with them and trying to find a common ground. And I'll use the word befriend them. However, that's probably not the best word here. It's probably just learning how to network effectively. I was looking into some statistics to prepare for today. And some of the things that the internet is very conflicted on is how much is that hidden job market? What percentage does that make?
Yeah.
And when we say hidden market, what we really mean is there are obviously the jobs on the job boards, but there are some level of jobs as well which never make it to the job boards because they're already filled in. How do they get filled in? Is because you know someone who works in that business, who knows that you're the best fit for that opportunity. So obviously, they still might have to do some sort of interviews. However, it doesn't always have to be publicly posted, the job. So in that way, essentially, you are getting a foot forward to save yourself from all the trouble of having to search and having to apply. Do I believe that it has to be just one way and not the other? I don't think so. I think that you would need to really understand what the job boards are like. You need to understand how to apply well. You need to know the basics of making sure that your CV is right, making sure that it's also tailored to that specific job that you're applying for, making sure that you know how to write a good cover letter. That's always important. Making sure as well that you understand the company really well so that you are adhering to them, speaking their language in your application. But all of this is actually going to be still very valuable if you're trying to build up a network as well.
Okay, so now when it comes to networking now, right? Okay, a lot of international students do not know how to, start, where to start from, how they're going to be perceived when they want to network, all right? So in a simple term, what would you say a networking means?
In very basic terms, very simple terms, I always use this analogy. When you were a kid, I have nieces, and I observe them, how they play in the playground. When you were a kid, you would go to a playground maybe that you haven't been to before, and what do kids do? Do you want to be my friend? Do you want to play with me? It's kind of like that. It is as natural as that, but you're just transferring it over into a little bit more of a professional environment. What I'm trying to say is that you connect with people. People connect with people. There is a word that I really want to put forward in everyone's minds today when it comes to networking, and that is authenticity. You definitely don't want to speak to people and then not actually be authentic. Try and just, make yourself sound impressive, or if you're trying to like say that they are phenomenal, but you don't necessarily think that. If you're trying to approach this from a fake perspective, you will not be as successful as you would be if you're approaching it naturally and authentically. And if we're thinking about steps, we're thinking about breaking this down into steps, we want to make sure that we, first of all, find the right kind of event to attend. And here, the introverts in the room are going to be, no, I don't want to go and see people. It's okay. You can also network from home, if you will. You can also network when you're working, from LinkedIn. You can also network online. As long as you're maintaining, you're being honest and you're being authentic in your connections, that is the key thing that you want to put forward. So going back to breaking it down into steps, find the right environment for yourself to go and network. So if it's going to be a LinkedIn that you want to connect with people, if it's going to be an event that you're going to go, which is relevant to your sector, you want to maybe see how, connect to some of the speakers, have a really good understanding of who is it that you want to be connected with. Let's textualize this a little bit more. So if you are a software engineer, right? We know that the sector isn't doing amazing at the moment. For the past 2 years, it's been shrinking by 65%. So that's crazy. And we know that we have so many talented international students out there who are really good with software development, but they don't necessarily have the right network and environment. And in the same time, there are so many different events that are going on in tech specifically. And also you can take this for any sector. I'm just using tech for analogy here. But any sector, you will find relevant events. And you would then want to go to those events, connect with those people, be them online or be them face-to-face, connect with those people and try and build up a relationship. And in that relationship, you want to, I'll put it like this. Let's assume that you're going to a face-to-face event and you really admire one of the speakers because maybe they're an international individual who also made it in the UK and that's something you really connect to. Well, you essentially find something that you have in relevance with that person. You find something that you connect over. Once you found that thing, the next thing is to really build upon that. So maybe they're a speaker, then you're able to talk to them afterwards, share with them that you really enjoy the fact of how they, progressed in the country or the steps that they took or a specific topic that they were talking about or specific software that maybe they use and they talk about all the time. Whatever really it is that is your point of connection, you want to find that. And then if it is someone that is maybe, obviously you want to think about if it's going to be one of the top people in the industry, are they going to have time to connect with you on an individual level? Most likely not. But if it's someone who is a professional, who's, they're a regular person and they are already in a position where they want to help out other people, maybe they came to your university. That's a really good place to start. Utilizing the events that your careers team puts out in the university. Those are always really soft ways, easy ways for you to tune into and get comfortable with meeting people. I hope we've covered some steps there. I'm not sure if it's all of the steps, but
I think we'll be able to cover some couple of steps because I remember when I was in uni, right, I go to a lot of our career services events, a lot of them. And it was pretty much an eye-opener because you get to see people and then you get to leave your shell to kind of now, prompt a conversation properly compared to having to stay in your dorm and then you're not saying anything, you're not connecting with people. So the first step is, getting out there and probably having a plan is what you kind of mentioned, right?
Yes.
You must have it pre-planned, not just going there and say jargons and being authentic. I think I like the word authentic. You mentioned there. Thank you so much for that. So now we've understood the steps to taking, to making network, right? Now, let's not talk about the job, getting jobs through network, right? Now we talk about the hidden job markets. Okay. So what are the hidden job markets? What is actually the hidden job markets?
So the hidden job market is essentially where specific jobs that come up in companies never essentially make it out there into a job board. And those are essentially opportunities that are absolutely real life opportunities going on into companies. And this is what I was saying, that the internet is very conflicted on what percentage that is. Some go as far as saying that it's 80% of the jobs never make it to the job market. I personally think that that's a bit out there. Then others say that it's between 50 to 80% of the jobs never make it out there. Then others say that it's only 10%. So the truth lies somewhere in between on that one. Somewhere between 10 to 80%, I honestly don't believe it's 80% of the job market is what we call hidden. And a hidden one is basically jobs that never make it out there, never make it to the job board. And if we want to be able to tap into that, we need to be in the right network to be able to network with the right people who know about these opportunities and then are able to let us know. Now, how realistic that is, and I'm trying to think, like, have I ever gotten a job out of the hidden job market? Maybe like something that comes to mind is if it is jobs that go internally in a business. So I work in a university at the moment, and some opportunities that come up within the team internally, they come up specifically in order to keep staff, or they come up because there is an expansion and there's already a person in mind who the university wants to take that expansion forward. So maybe that is an example of like how that can happen. So even if it's a job, maybe, and also if you want to think about things where someone is looking for someone very quickly, they have a very short deadline, they have only like 1 week to have a replacement, find a replacement, that can happen. And in those situations, you would reach out to your internal network and you would try to find, do you know someone who's really good with this? Now I'm actually thinking of another job that I did get similar to this in that way, and it was working in a jewelry shop. We know that obviously this is quite a sensitive topic, right? You know, the owners of the shop definitely wanted someone who they had a good reference for. So in that way, and it doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be like that specific job that I got for like in that way where I was recommended. I still interviewed, I want to mention that. Mm-hmm. You still should expect that you will go through a formalized process. Hence the reason why, what we were saying earlier, your basic skills are always going to be important to be on point, you know, your basic employability skills. But yeah, essentially I interviewed, they liked me, I was recommended, and obviously it's quite a sensitive space, so you want someone trustworthy. It would have taken them a lot longer if they were to go to market and hire someone externally, if you will, someone that they don't have a reference for. They needed to run checks, and in the same time, in that case, the manager had to be present a lot more in the beginning, rather than if it was someone that they knew. All right. So these are like very basic examples of situations where the work might be sensitive, the market might be sensitive, the role might be needing to be filled very quickly. And in those cases, if you just happen to be in the right place in the right time, it could be that you land that role.
So I'm curious to want to know, because I know some of the audience might want to kind of ask this kind of question, right? So the person will refer you to this job.
Yeah.
All right. What was your relationship with this person?
Good question. This was actually a family friend of ours.
Okay.
And it was their daughter who used to work in that place. And at that time, I was job hunting. So this is where your internal network could be the answer. So, you know, when you're thinking of your networking and you're thinking of a network, it doesn't always have to be somewhere out there, these like magical people, these magical unicorns who are going to just hand you a job. It doesn't quite work like that, okay? Yeah. But it would be just your internal network. So in this case, it was a family friend who we've known for a really long time. Their daughter used to work in that place. She was leaving that job. She wasn't going to work there for a while because she found another opportunity. They were looking for the place, the jewelry shop were looking for a replacement. So she recommended me. She knew that I was job hunting actively. She recommended me, and I went and interviewed. They liked me, and it ended up being actually a really good place. It really helped me progress further on in my life.
I love what you said, and I kind of put that down. Like, she knew you were job hunting.
Yes.
Right. But if she never knew you were job hunting, the opportunity would have gone by to somebody else.
Absolutely. So this is where, the urge is also utilize the network that you already have. If that is just your friends who are also job hunting, if you have good friends and you're all job hunting, but someone sees that a job comes up that maybe you haven't seen and they want to send it to you, that's a great place to start. Mm-hmm. You absolutely can utilize your network in that way, as long as you've got the right people around you and you're conscious, obviously, about that. Again, thinking about being authentic. You don't want to expect things from people that maybe you're not willing to give. So you always want to be able to help each other with your network. I think that would be always really useful.
What is very fascinating with your story is the fact that it's not the traditional way people will ever think of, making that networking to getting an hidden job. Because a lot of people want to go through LinkedIn to again connect with people, go to an event, And I like your story because it was an authentic story. It's a real life story, all right? And it's for the audience to kind of understand that there are different ways you can actually network and then get those hidden jobs.
Absolutely. And now that you mentioned LinkedIn, I want to say actually my experience as well with doing the formalized networking as well through LinkedIn, because a lot of you may be wondering, but how does that work?
Yeah.
Again, I'll use my own story that I always give to the students and to the clients that I work with. It does happen as well if you network through LinkedIn. There is obviously amazing, first of all, I have to say, I love LinkedIn. And I try to convert everyone around me to go on LinkedIn and utilize it, because it is a really, really useful platform. You basically have access to anyone in the world, or you have a much shorter and quicker access, if you will, to many, many people who are already in the specific network, who are doing the jobs that you want them to. So in 2020, I had an opportunity to do transition of my career, and I moved into higher education. When you come from the background that I was coming from graduate recruitment, so I was already working with a lot of the universities as it is, because we were going to universities, to careers fairs, and so on and so forth. So I knew some heads of careers or some people within careers, but I didn't know that many. It was important for me. I wanted to really test this networking thing on LinkedIn. And I decided that I'll send a message to 50 heads of careers. It was literally, I just typed heads of careers, London, because location for me was important. I'm London-based. And just searched up and started sending connection messages. So I was not connected with these people, by the way. So I started sending connection messages. They're very short. So I want to say they're maybe like 200 symbols or something like that. So they're very quick and very to the point. You want to make sure that whenever you send a message like that to what we call cold contacts, so people that you don't necessarily know or you don't have any connection with, you want to make sure that you're to the point. So in my case, I was saying, I've worked in this industry for this many years. I'm now looking to go into higher education. I'm very keen for jobs in X and Y. And do you happen to have any roles available right now in your team? I send that message to about 50 people to give numbers and ideas to the listeners. About 50 people. I got 3 responses back. And one of them was, unfortunately, we just filled the role. We don't have any, but this is the website where you can keep checking on if something comes up, which is perfectly fine and fair. I did get loads of connections, however, from that. So people would add me, but maybe not respond, which is fine. I get another one, which was, oh yes, we actually have a role, and this is the link for it. Go ahead and apply. Good luck. Perfect. And then one more was saying, actually, we're going to have a role coming up in 2 weeks' time. I'll send you the link. And all you need in those situations is one. Out of the 50, all I needed was one. And it did actually happen that I did follow up, obviously. I did connect with the people, did respond to the people who sent me the opportunities, and even the one who said that they didn't have. You always want to stay polite, and you always want to be kind. They can't expect. A lot of students actually make this mistake, would send a message and say, do you have a job for me? Who are you? You know, who are you that I should have a job for you? So you want to have a tactful approach and considerate approach, and also not get upset if the answer is no, because they don't owe you anything. They're doing you a favor. So you might want to, utilize this and run with it and make it as a positive thing in the future. Even if the opportunity isn't right now, it could be right later. And you always want to make sure that when you are recruiting or when you are job hunting, you want to remain really good relationship with the people that you're interacting with, especially if you're doing networking. I have a story which maybe we can come back to later of people who networked not so well with me or who didn't treat me really well in the recruitment process. And they end up running into me later on in life. And it was a very awkward situation. So, definitely learn a lesson from that individual. Don't do the same thing. Always remain really kind and really nice to everyone. So what happened going back to my story, what happened after those 2 jobs? I followed through. I applied for both of the jobs. I'm pretty sure I interviewed with one of them. It ended up not being the right thing, which is okay. But it was obviously still a great experience for me to get that connection, to be known, and maybe they would think of me later. And that actually did happen. So I did that maybe a month before I had left my last job. And I had an opportunity later on. I think that was like maybe 2 years later. Once I had landed on an opportunity, which I did, by the way, find in a job board, and I just applied for it, so that still works. I was job hunting later on, 2 years later after that. So I had put already in my network, so this is something, again, where if you utilize LinkedIn effectively, it will be something useful, where you've got the label where it's looking for work, or something along those lines.
Open to work?
Open to work, yes, perfect. So it was open to work label. I put that on. I put a little message of what is it that I'm kind of looking for. I had people straight away messaging me with, there is this opportunity, there is this opportunity, there is this opportunity. Why don't you apply for this one? And actually, my current role was recommended to me twice. So I thought it's meant to be from different places. So what I'm trying to say is it does work, but it will also take some time to build up your network in the right way. And to not be afraid, really, to reach out to people, be kind, be authentic, and try and find the right connections that way as well.
Thank you so much for that, Isi.
A lot of information.
It is. So I think I'm curious to want to know the story of someone who didn't network with you properly well. Because I think it's going to be very interesting for listeners because, like you said, these guys don't owe you anything. All right, you're looking for a favor from them. Yeah. And you mentioned that you sent a connection to over 50 people and just 3 people responded. Yeah. A lot of students come and say, I just keep networking, but nobody's responding. Yeah, you're right. They don't owe you anything. Yeah. So keep doing it, right? Yeah. So I'm curious to want to know the story that you wanted to mention earlier.
Yeah, so the story is a story which I want to share as an anecdote, and maybe for the listeners who are hiring themselves or who might be hiring themselves in the future, or who might have experienced something similar or will experience something similar, where I had sent an application through a recommendation internally. So a job had come up in an institution where I had a relationship, I had a connection. I was internally recommended for that opportunity as well. And traditionally in the UK, if someone is internally recommended, you always want to at least give them an interview. Even if you've chosen someone else already in your mind, or even if you might have, or you don't think that they meet fully the criteria, it's just what we call courtesy to actually interview that individual. So, and also bear in mind that I was applying for a job which I knew that I have the skills for. So out of the list of requirements, I knew that I met everything apart from one, which was I hadn't worked in this industry before. However, my experience was extremely applicable, so it shouldn't have been ever an issue. And I had an internal recommendation as well. So if that was the case, traditionally, you would expect that you would sit at least for an interview, or they would at least invite you to the next stage for you to at least show you the courtesy to try. However, that individual who was hiring had just made a decision that they will not want to take my application any further. I did reach out asking, do you mind telling me why you wouldn't want to take my application further? I meet all the requirements that you want. What is in my application that you don't approve of? What is the issue with my application there? I didn't receive a straight answer, and I just received a flat out, no, I will not interview you. No matter the fact that you're internally recommended, no matter the fact that you meet the criteria, it would just be like, no, it's done for you. Bear in mind that this was me applying for this sector, which I was trying to get into. Anyone with 2 cents would understand that it's very likely that this individual will end up running into me later on in life. If we're going to be working in the same industry, the likelihood of us running into each other is pretty high. And this is exactly what happened 2 years later. Or maybe 4 years later, I can't remember now. A few years down the line, I'm at an event and I run into this particular person. I didn't realize it in the first instance. I remembered the name. I think I hadn't seen the face. So I remembered the name and I knew, obviously the institution that they were working in. So when we are introducing, in the first moment of an introduction, it clicked straight away in my mind, oh, so this is that person. I didn't say anything, I didn't make it into a point. I just went on and I had a casual, normal conversation, being polite, and this is where, you always should remain being the kind person, being the nice person, being authentic. So, we had a really nice conversation, and then towards the end of that conversation, I mentioned my name again in passing, and it clicked for them as well. They realized who I actually was, that they had turned me down for no apparent reason several years earlier, and I was already working in the same industry. Yeah, what they essentially did is they just ran off. Quite bluntly, I had the conversation with them, I mentioned my name again, and they just ran off. Didn't even say, didn't even excuse themselves in any way, they just ran off. Yeah, this is a great lesson. Please don't ever put yourself in a situation like that where you're going to treat someone unkindly and you will end up running into them. This is how life works. This is what karma is.
Exactly. I was actually going to say that because, so this individual did not apologize.
No, they didn't own to it. They didn't say anything. And had they actually turned around and said, you know what, I think that I had, I think you had applied for an opportunity with us. Sorry, in that moment, something was going on. Even if you just come up with a silly excuse, but you address it, you're already the better man for that. This case, nope, no owning up. And it was very clear. It was very clear because we're having a really nice conversation. The moment they realized who I was, changed, the face dropped, and they just ran off. Yeah, it is just a situation where I strongly recommend people avoid.
So I think I'm going to assume that probably this individual does not have a justifiable reason for turning you down years earlier.
I don't know. I wish them all the best. You know, no problem at all if they happen to hear this, because obviously,
exactly.
same industry. If they happen to hear it, I recognized you. I'm sorry. You know, I know that you recognize me too. So yeah, just be kind to people. Always treat people well. You never know what's going to happen in life. And if one day that individual will not depend on me for something, which I will be working with that particular institution soon again. So there is a chance that we'll meet again. You just never know in life. So you always want to treat people well. If they don't treat you well themselves, show them, you know, kindness and understanding and compassion and move on. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Isi. And I think that's a life lesson, to treat everyone you come in contact with nice. That is a bonus to this conversation.
100%.
So I'm just gonna go through one of the questions that some of our community members used to ask. Right? Okay. So, what are some of the signs that someone is networking the wrong way?
Ooh, I like this question. What are some of the signs that someone is networking the wrong way? Well, if you're not really, so if we're talking about the traditional, we're going to an event and we're connecting with people. Yes, it takes a lot of guts, and yes, it's not every single individual who would have the kind of confidence to put themselves out there. But let's assume that this is the situation we're in, and you're trying to connect with people, but people are not really willing to maybe connect with you, give you their contact details, or you're feeling like you're being avoided or whatever that might be, is you want to check maybe what is it that you're trying to talk about. You want to check your authenticity. You want to check if you are in the right place. So maybe double checking that you're in the right location, in the sense of, is this the right event? Are these the right kind of people who would be at the position maybe where they could have an influence in any way? Are you being authentic? I think that's a really big one for me. Are you really asking the right kind of questions? So if you're going in to a networking event and you're trying to connect with people and you're straight away saying to them, look, I'm job hunting right now and I'm really looking for a job. Do you have a job for me? Probably not the best approach you can have. However, if you're going towards people and you're trying to connect with them over, you know, I really enjoyed what you just shared, that's quite influential, I worked on something similar, or I was doing an assignment which was about this topic and that topic that you've covered, so I really connect with that. And then that kind of strikes up a natural conversation. Oh, you know, you're studying right now, so what are you studying? Oh, okay, you're studying this. Okay, that makes sense. So where do you want to go in life, you know? So that is how a natural conversation would unfold. If you're not having these natural conversations, it's unlikely that you're going to get anything from that. And also, even if this individual doesn't give you the job, they might know people who are in the right place, who might be looking right now. They might like you individually. And there is this thing about, in recruitment, I've been in recruitment for a while, and no matter how much you try to be unbiased, as individuals, we hire people because of people. So you hire the person, you don't hire their skills. And what does that mean? Is that you will want to connect with an individual if you want to hire them, especially if you're hiring internally in your own business. You want to actually understand who the individual is. You want to click with that individual, and that's what will make you like them. No one would ever recommend you. I mentioned earlier that I was recommended for that specific role. And the reason why I was recommended is because I had already built up that natural relationship with that individual who recommended me. I had done favors for them. I had worked with them for a while. They knew my character. For them, it wasn't a question if they would feel comfortable recommending me. They knew who I was. So not every single connection is going to land your job tomorrow. But the more authentic you are, the more genuine you are in your connections, and the more you're thinking always of, how can I help others? and how can I be of service to others, the better place you're going to be in life to then take that forward.
I see what you say there, right? So starting a conversation with someone, wants it to be authentic. It's not about going there and say, hello, I need a job. And I think I'm getting something from what you said there is praise them first. Talk about what they've done, what interests, what cuts to your fantasy about them first. Because I think a lot of people like to be praised.
Of course.
All right.
Absolutely. I say this all the time. Utilize, if you don't know what to ask them about their journey. Ask them about their career. People love to talk about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a problem. Ask them that question. Again, as long as you're staying authentic and you're genuinely interested in that person's story, ask them that question. Ask them what is it that they've done? How is it that they got into that place in their lives that they've gotten to? People traditionally wouldn't have a problem with telling you that.
So this is like sowing a seed. It doesn't get germinated until you feed it with water and the right sun.
I would say that's a really good analogy, yes.
So having a connection, you have to feed your connection so that they can always remember you because they have other connections, so they have other friends. So it's all about, because with your family friend now, if you've not proven yourself to be an hardworking person, it's a lot to recommend someone because you have to recommend somebody you actually trust or you know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely. So if you want to be in a position where you want to be recommended, or that is a relationship that you should be nurturing already. It's not a relationship that you should expect that you meet someone today and then tomorrow they're going to start recommending you, especially if it's their reputation that they're putting on the line.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that these are people that you've shown respect to before. These are people, as I mentioned, earlier. Maybe you've done things for them. Maybe you helped them out. Maybe you came up for them when they needed you. Then you've shown yourself. You've proven yourself who you are as an individual. You've proven yourself worthy of them investing their time in you or investing, their relationships in you as well.
All right, thank you so much for that. I think another question I have here is, what is the balance between being intentional, versus being transactional? So some connection and network comes in that light, you can be intentional about it, or you can just be transactional because this is my end goal. This is where I want to go to. I'm looking for a job in your firm. This is why I'm coming to you. Or you could be intentional about it.
I think that it is somewhere in the middle. You don't want to just go and connect with people who are not going to be useful for you in a way. And this is obviously very materialistic way of looking into it. But you want to be honest with yourself as well, because also there is the element of why would you be wasting the time of someone who will also not benefit from you in a way. It is always going to be a mutually beneficial relationship that you end up having with people. So now you want to be intentional and you want to in a way also be transactional to understand. So if you strike up a conversation with someone in a networking event, you want to kind of assess in a very natural way what that individual does and how you can potentially work together. And always think about it this way, that it's not about them doing things for you only, it's always back and forth. Something comes to mind right now. I attended an event that is relevant to an industry that I'm specifically working with. And one of the individuals there, we did like each other on a personal level a lot. And the next step was that we started, and essentially the kind of things, how did that happen? We asked the regular, obviously we spoke about whatever was the topic of the specific event. We then spoke about our kind of cultural background. That was a big connection. Although we come from different cultural backgrounds, it was actually useful because we kind of connected for being different. So that was something which international students can also absolutely use. I'm not from the UK originally. I'm European. So for me, it was interesting to connect with someone who, in that case, they was half American. So it was interesting, we have certain things in our culture which kind of are connectors, so we connected over that. And then another thing was then I started digging a little bit more about what is it that they do, what is their job, what is the work that they do. And it became really apparent that we can actually work together in more than one ways. It was a specific thing that I was looking to connect with them on an individual, like me benefiting from that connection. But it would also be something that would help them in their work as well. So we did establish that relationship then. We did promise we'll reach out. And recently, we connected over again the main kind of topic. We attended another event basically together, and we picked up that relationship. And we did speak about the things of where we can mutually help each other. But then that was a great opportunity for me to also be mindful of, transactional, if you will, and use, my blunt, materialistic way of looking into things, where I did a little mention of, well, you know what, I'm actually doing this right now, and I can maybe help you guys in this way. So, and this is basically where I've kind of promoted my own services in that moment. And I felt okay for me having met this person twice already with the level of connection that I built with that individual at that stage, for me to mention that. It was a tiny seed that I did sow early on in our conversation already, in our first conversation, but it was already a conversation that I had built up quite a lot. So you want to still invest in those relationships. You want to be kind of intentional and authentic in them, but you can also have in the back of your mind kind of the transaction element there too.
So in a nutshell, there's a mix of being intentional and also being transactional.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you don't have to lose the focus of
Absolutely.
the reason why you're networking, yeah?
Yes. And you will definitely have people who will be a lot more transactional with you, with whom might speak to you quickly and kind of assess who you are and are you of benefit to them. And if they don't feel like you are, they can move on. Again, going back to my idea, be kind and nice to everyone, that's perfectly fine. If they didn't like you, they're unlikely to ever want to help you. So if you see this a connection, even if you might think that connection might be useful to you, if there isn't, if the chemistry is not happening, it's okay to let it go. And that's also similar for you. Like if you are the one in a position where others want to connect with you, but you don't necessarily feel like that can be beneficial in the long run, or that might just take away from your time, but not really add to you as much, it's also okay to be polite and kind of let that relationship go.
For an early career professionals or students wanting to leave that awkward state of not being able to network, and they want to go into the institution of networking.
Perfect.
What advice would you have for them?
Yes. So I'm trying to think of top maybe 5 steps if we want to break this down. You want to make sure that you find the right place and you have a plan of what is it that you want to achieve, and have a very clear idea of the fact that it might not be a job tomorrow. It might be that you just build up your network, and that being something really useful as well. The next thing would be that you guard yourself with the understanding that people don't owe you anything. And if traditionally, most people want to help other people if they have the availability or if they have the time and so on. And it's okay if doesn't say anything bad about you as an individual.
Yeah.
If people don't connect with you right away, and if you build yourself up to that. You want to find the right individuals that you want to be speaking with. You want to have an authentic and honest conversation, and although you know that your final goal might be that you expand your network and that you maybe land a job opportunity from that, it's okay also as well if that doesn't happen straight away. The final thing as well that I want to say is if you connect with someone and you like them and you want to follow up with them, that's probably the final thing, is to make sure that you follow up with people. And it doesn't have to be anything overly complex, especially if you speak to people who would have spoken with many other people at an event. What you want to do is when you have that authentic conversation, maybe share one kind of your own stories and your own anecdote, which you kind of gave as an example earlier. You know, I worked on this in my assignment, or I did that, and so on. You find that connection that you have with that individual. You can absolutely just follow up on that. Thank you so much for connecting the other day at X event. I really liked what you shared on the stage on X, and it was really nice to catch up with you afterwards, to have a conversation about the way your career has unfolded. I would love to keep in touch. Or maybe if you have now, here is where we kind of go back to kind of transactional and intentional, right? Maybe here you can just say something along the lines, it would be great if we catch up, if we get a coffee. And those are the kinds of things that you can absolutely say in that conversation as well. The example I was giving earlier about the good relationship that I built up with the international individual I met at an event was, I had already mentioned that there is something that I do additionally and so on that can be beneficial, and then I would definitely follow up with them on this topic. So I had already planted the seed in their minds that I will be reaching out to you again on this topic, right? So you kind of open a little door for yourself. So all you can say is, we spoke about potentially getting a coffee, or I would love to be able to do an informational interview with you online for like 30 minutes, if that's okay, just to hear a little bit more about the job. Whatever it is that you want to do, it's okay. It could be grabbing a coffee, it could be doing an informational interview, it could be, you mentioned that there might be an opportunity for shadowing. I would love that. I just wanted to make sure I follow up with you. This is the time that I'm free, where we can talk about it. So this is basically where something that I call being a closer. Yeah. So being able to close your conversations really well, and have always kind of a next step follow-up. You want to have a flexibility around what is it that you're proposing, so it doesn't have to be, oh, you can only do this with me, and you can only see me this time, and it can only be this way. You want to be flexible, but you also want to be leading towards a next action. Okay. So in this case, it could be just, your coffee or your informational interview that you're going to do with that person. But you want to be also like specific enough to like how much time that might potentially cost them, and be very mindful as well that you don't abuse that time as well.
Thank you so much for that, Isi. So for this week now, okay, we have a time there watching this podcast, okay? What action would you advise? What one action would you advise a job seeker to take towards making that network connection?
One action that they can do today is create a very clear plan of what is it that they want to achieve, and then work their way back from there. So if you want to achieve a job in tech or a job in law, whatever that might be, you want to create a really clear plan of how you're going to execute that. And I want to mention this because this is a very common thing that happens with international students. Do not go to your career service in your last year of your education. Connect with people, start working and start thinking about your careers from the moment that you touch down. You touch down, you want to make sure from that moment, from your first year if you're doing an undergraduate, or from your first semester if you're doing a master's degree, whatever it is, you want to start thinking about your end goal, which is going to be your career that you're going to end up in. You want to start building, you want to start being really, really focused on that. Yes, we all know getting used to a new country, new system of education, it's not easy. It takes a while. Give yourself a breather for the first 1 or 2 months, but don't miss out on building up your relationships early on. So the first thing is, as soon as you land, as soon as you come, start creating a plan of what is it that you want to see. And maybe do yourself a little thing of, this year I want to go to 3 events and I want to connect with 10 people. This is actually sometimes what I do with my clients. I'm like, okay, so what's the goal? Okay, this is the goal. So I'm going to challenge you now, and the challenge is going to be that this next month you want to attend free events that are on this and these topics, because this is your industry, and you want to connect with 10 individuals who are doing this and that. Go and have that conversation. Just put yourself out there and be confident in pushing yourself. You will learn. You will get there. I promise it's not as difficult as it sounds. Just go and do it.
I think you guys have heard it all. So a massive thank you to Isi for releasing us so many gems today. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, and if you're looking to level up your career, all right, if you find this podcast very, very interesting, please subscribe, review, share with your friends, drop a comment, ask a question. You might not know. I'm going to pass. She's going to see the comment anyway. All right. So I'm going to pass over the comment to her, and then she will answer your question. But once again, Isi, thank you so much for coming. We're going to drop your contact details, not your personal contact details.
My professional contact details. Yes.
Exactly.
My LinkedIn.
Exactly. But I think before we go, right? Okay, tell us about your other business, which is I wanted to come from you. I know you've told me about it,
Yes.
and I love the website. Okay, so please tell us about it, please.
Perfect. So I do work individually with clients as well on their career development. I'm a certified life and career coach, and also have specialized recently in neurodiversity coaching. So if any of you are actually neurodivergent and are looking for the right kind of help when it comes to careers especially, feel welcome to reach out as well. I do work on one-on-one basis and in group as well sessions, so we'll be welcome to join either of those. And I can help you with if you're really confused with your career journey, if you're really not sure of which way to go, if you're looking to get all of your kind of details confirmed when it comes to your CV, your cover letter, your interview preparation, all of those things, I do them. And I work with people individually, and will be very happy to support you with that as well.
All right. You've supported us right now for free.
Absolutely.
Sharing, massive knowledge. And this is what people pay, tons of amount for, but thanks so much for sharing your experience and your insights with us today. And then until next time, keep watching ISCANET podcast. Catch ya.